we started speaking about the shape and the line of what we call principal matters, or principal fields, or principal energy in the center of the universe. Something which has come up, and we were talking with the knowledge seekers, is that a large number of scientists, even today, have not, even in the physics and the nuclear physics, atomic physics, have come to understand a main principle, the working of atomic structure. Now we add a little bit more to the structure, a little bit more into the knowledge. In actual, the physical structure of the atom and the nucleus. In the atomic structure, we look at the proton, electron and neutron. But when we go into the nucleus, when we go to the center, we find out we have always, or most of the cases, larger number of neutrons than protons. Because when the neutrons divide into electron and proton, they add to the proton or neutron of the atomic structure. But at the same time, for them to reach this division point of electron and proton, they have to lose their surplus energy in a plasmatic magnetic field form. When the energy in a plasmatic magnetic field is released, thank you very much for the picture, then the fields have to be absorbed by partially the protons which are near to them, and partially by the electrons in the boundary. But one fundamental point which is never understood in the totality of it, in the structure of the atomic physics, is that the electrons themselves are there to absorb the radiation from the proton, from the neutron, and from the environment which the atom exists or stays and is present. In this case, the matter state, which is a neutron, the matter state, which is a proton, releases energy, or its energy, in a spectrum of fields. What does this mean? All the energy, all the gravitational magnetic field released, let's say by a neutron, is not in the matter and submatter strength. Some are in the transition and some are in the principal strength. So an electron which absorbs energy from a proton or a neutron in the center, it absorbs again a spectrum of matter strength, transition strength, and principal strength. So one of the reasons that a proton or even a neutron, because the neutron receives this energy in a different way through the atmosphere and through the galaxy and through the universe, the principal matter strength or principal energy level is received by the nucleus in the same way and more or less as much as the matter state. So a neutron not only just loses part of its field, due to its gravitational field strength, absorbs spectrum of energy into the center itself. Not only from the proton and the neutrons around it, but from what we call the soup of the cosmos. This is very important if you start working in the level of the plasma and the GANs. We've seen in some tests that you have not noticed or you have not observed is that the condition changes, not without changing anything else, but the condition changes just because of the environmental change. You start producing different material, you don't touch anything, but you move your pot or something somewhere else, or you move it near the ground and it changes. The reason for the change is change of condition and the change of the leakage or absorption of the energy by the plasma or the GANs in all three levels. The principle, the transition, and the matter state. In the center of the neutron, like a galaxy, there is a principal seed, which is the source, is a bank, is a reserve tank. And this reserve tank has a spectrum. And the further you go inwards by the strength in negative direction, the strength of the fields increases by the order of magnitude. So not only the center is emitting from the highest order to a lowest order, but the highest order in the center, because of its strength, attracts fields from the environment inside its own plasma of the neutron, plus the environment outside it in the atomic structure or the universal structure. So, in a way, all the neutrons, all the protons, all the elements in a visible and invisible direction and the strength, they all have and connect with each other in this matter. The strength, the stronger, always attracts the ones that's below it, but at the same time releases below itself. So the process is continuous. And when you come to the center of the principle, there is always order of magnitude because you add to it. If one understands this, then you can translate this back into the structure of, for example, what we spoke about in the health section of the skin and the nails. That it changes, we absorb matter energy level. So now you have, and you come to understand that from now on, that your knowledge has extended, understanding and having more clarity about the different field strength of the transition, the principle and the matter state and submatter state. There is a continuous absorption of the fields and energies in every level in respect to the lower and a higher order strength. And this is in a way conservation of energy in a plasmatic condition. A plasma at the lower order, the strength in the principal level, only absorbs and adds to its mass only when the gravitational and magnetical fields are of the same strength. So, in a way, they take part when it's equal to them, when they have the magnetical property or magnetic property, absorption property, when the plasma in magnetical and gravitational are of the same order. So when you have a gravitational magnetic field which falls in the transition level, this will never be absorbed by a matter state or by the principal state. This is very important because in the order of the magnitude, when you speak about the nucleus, not all the fields which are radiated out of the nucleus by the neutrons and proton are as the strength which the electron can absorb. And what we see these released energy as rays, what we call radiations. But at the same time, the radiation released is dictated by the environment which the electron is working on, or the proton is working on, or the atomic structure is. The release of radiation, the release of plasmatic gravitational magnetic field by atomic structure, which in its singularity, in a gas state we call it a GANS, is entirely dependent on what the environment around the nucleus, around the plasma, allows it to release or to accept, and how the connection is built that creates a plasmatic pressure. Not all the radiations released by the neutron or the proton are in what up to now the man has observed in a particle, and other parts we call them alpha and beta, and when they become another field we call them gamma. Now that the world of science has moved into the plasma technology, now you have to look and understand for new type of radiation. There are radiations which are much further higher in order than gamma. But at this moment, the world of science have not managed to detect them because they operate in a plasmatic level, not in a ray level. Some are seen and can be measured, and the new tools will come that you can measure rays of the higher order than gamma ray. They are more powerful, but because, as I explained, each section of entity of a plasma absorbs what is in field strength range of gravitational magnetic field, they are not absorbed or touch the structure of the atomic structure of the neighbors. We have to extend the knowledge in understanding that there is more than gamma rays. Much more. At the same time, we have to understand and add to the knowledge that the gravitational magnetic field, what we call plasmatic energy packages like rays, exist, operate in all levels, and in a space they'll be one of the most important parts of any operation in the reactors and defense technology. What this means is now that we are going into the next steps of the space technology, we have to devise tools that does not sit and rely on alpha, beta or gamma rays, but on the composite magnetic gravitational field packages which behave like rays, but they are composite, they're actually a light, but of a different strength. Very much as you see different colors through different strength and different bandwidth and wavelength, the same kind of structure applies to plasma. And these will create different lights, colors of lights, from the point of the observer on the human race level. This is why, if you go to book number 3, we have shown a composite color shape, color shades. Because this is to show that now we have to understand that some of these so-called plasmatic rays can become slowed down, that behave like gamma rays, or can be attracted by another stronger point, that they can change to a stronger speed to behave like gamma rays. These plasmatic gravitational magnetic fields are part of the structure of the universe, have been from the beginning of time. But now man has to add to the knowledge. Because in space, you have to be aware, they are not harmful. You receive gravitational plasmatic field in a gamma ray level, but it's totally harmless. Because it adds to the totality of the plasma. When you have a ray, you disbalance the plasma. And that's why you create damage. Our body, every single cell of any entity, be it the stone, be it the human body, be it the fish, be it the water, continuously absorbs and releases these kind of packages. The release of these plasmatic magnetic fields and the condition that the environment they are in requests or pulls out of the plasma of a neutron or electron or proton dictates the decay time. If you say this is the GaNs of the copper and this is the, let's say, the GaNs of the oxygen, will come out, you can see it. The magnetic gravitational fields of the copper and the oxygen create a gap which the fields can accommodate each other. The gap decides that this is perfect for all the fields from one to the other to create a loop, what we call infinity loop or twinity. That there is no need to link up with another element in a given environmental condition.
Yes.
When you add, let's say, hydrogen, or you add something else in the environment, as the loop is completed, the field of this element here is external, cannot link up because it's already established, even though it might feed into it. The only thing it does, it allows the distance between this gap to be increased or decreased. When you add another powerful field, let's say of a higher order than copper, then you create a new condition. Wood, this loop needs to give to this loop to create a new loop as a total entity. Then you get a new plasma as totality. But
Um,
the the weaker material fields do not become part of once the loop is created. That's why we call it the CuO, or we call it the CO2, because the combination of two oxygen and a carbon allows the balance condition of the original mother, which was nitrogen. This is important from the gravitational magnetic field strength. You
Um,
you can have as many material as you have around the stable condition, but once the condition is created, the only thing you add to the mass but will not be connected to the mass.
okay, this is understood. Let's say that we have CO, and then
Yeah.
we have certain mass in the center of this element that create the condition around it. But this element, let's say, has a certain mass x. So around in the environment, when we create a gap between these atoms, between these gans, uh, we are able to attract elements that are around this mass, yes, around this field
We
and down
don't
the field.
attract. You don't. Maybe I can explain this. You don't attract, but you can link up to. If the it's you do not attract, you can link up to, and then that linkage is like we had a copper oxide here. Armon added magnesium to it. So now the plasma of the magnesium in a gaseous state as is created sits here. But now this creates a total loop with the totality of this field, not with any of the elements individually. So what we see is a GANs of the three materials together as a center mass. This goes back into what Mike was trying to explain last week, but he went towards the wrong side in explaining into the electron having a heavier mass. These two create an infinity loop, and then what they create as totality with a new material, then this creates a new loop. Then you see new colors as total mass.
Mm.
Because now your
Then,
mass has a
um,
boundary.
then can you explain a little bit more in a process what happened with the Fukushima experiment when we had CO and other gas from this kind to the radioactive material, when later it was said that we had some higher elements like gold and silver and stuff like this in matter condition. How these GANs link up to the plasmatic gravitational fields of higher order and just add to the mass, or what was the process?
The point is you are looking at single structure where you have to look at the total environment. You have to look what the environment puts into that, what energy gravitational magnetic field adds into the process that converts the GANs by mass into a matter state and elevates it to a higher order matter state. It's the environment which you produce. This is what we are doing now in Fukushima. This is one of the solutions we have developed for Fukushima, and very soon we will announce a new development in the same manner by adding environmental energy into the GANs structure or environment to convert matters. This is how your body, through parotid glands and through thymus, changes matter from one state to a higher or a lower order. You have to
Is
add, I'll
that
explain this. So you add a plasmatic magnetic field energy into the GANs, which at that state, the GANs itself becomes at the level strength of the matter which it can merge into. And by merging into, by being attracted into, it creates a new neutron condition. Then it changes the state of the matter. Or you can create a condition where a neutron is available to be at the strength to be added. In a way, it's a cold fusion into the center mass of the atomic structure. Then you immediately increase and change the isotope level in conversion. And how long that neutron in the center stays dictates the stability of the isotope not to be radioactive for a given period of time or go through a decay process.
It does mean that it's irrelevant what kind of element we have in the core. It can be CO, it could be iron and oxygen, but
Anything.
at the same time, it depends. We can see different matter of forming out of this
Yes,
element, forming
but
an environment.
but but go back to something I think we add to the knowledge. Oh, hello, white pussycat. We never seen you for a long time. We are in the fish tank. Our cats are coming to see what we're doing. Something we have to go back, and I think you are overlooking. In a mathematic condition of a nucleus, you have protons and neutrons. The GANs, which is the matter, GANs environment which you have created, let's say CO, whatever, CO2 or whatever, in its gravitational magnetic field strength has to be equal to the environment of this nucleus, that it can be attracted to, that it can become part of the structure, proton or neutron. Or you can do in a way that the total gravitational magnetic field energy of the CO2 does not become a neutron, but it gives enough energy to a proton to convert itself back into a neutron. And the residual energy, it becomes increasing the boundary energy of the plasma. Then isotope. Then the material is not radioactive anymore, or in some cases become more intensive radioactive. But in that position, it finds a new loop of the self-production, and then you get a higher speed, or you change the matter from direction of rotation of one of the electrons, because you create a stronger field inside, and then that field has to find a new position in respect to these electrons. All you do is you can, in a way you suck into the energy of the balloon and you add to it, but by adding to it, you add to the energy of a proton enough that it behaves and becomes the plasmatic condition of a neutron, so you have a new isotope. So you lose a proton, now you have a new neutron. Then you have a new material, new isotope. or behavior of a new material. And then you have to find how much energy in the environment you can create that this isotope as a GANs to become a new state of matter. At the moment, we are discussing in a big project here in Italy to do such a conversion. It's a huge industrial disaster for Italy. They've used materials in the past, which now has become to be, what do you call it, highly dangerous, considered, and they are. So if you want to reprocess these materials, it's impossible. Literally runs. There is not enough money in the government to pay for such a mistake of the past. So we are looking at exactly what you're talking about, but in the explanation which I explained. We cannot go and change the material which is already part of a construction, but we can create an environment around the construction that adds a neutron energy conversion from proton that the material become non-hazardous. We are following the same path at the moment in our work as we suggested in Fukushima.
Mr. Keshe, what happens to the original GANs material that you show in the diagram there when it influences the other material?
It doesn't influence gravitational magnetic field due to what are called dilution of the fields become matching to the internal environment of the nucleus.
So it actually
It's
becomes
so many,
included in that nucleus. It wouldn't
become
exist on
included.
its own anymore.
Yeah.
Okay, I
So
got it.
because it changes a proton to a neutron, but it has a surplus gravitational mass, so the color, the what we call the plasma of a nucleus changes, and then you get a different color. That's why you get different color when you add materials into, because now it has the energy of a different strength. Don't forget, when we speak about energy, is both gravitational and magnetical. So in so many ways, then you convert the matter from one to another. This is the job of your parotid glands and thymus. That's exactly how it's done. You do not convert iron to copper or copper to iron. You create a condition that you use the property of the plasmatic condition nearest to one of the isotopes in behavior or interaction in gravitational magnetic field. Because in the body, you're in a vacuum, and secondly, everything is in a GANS state. You don't change, you don't make a copper, or you make an iron out of a copper. Only thing you do, you add gravitational magnetic field GANS into the mass of the copper, or you take away from it, that the new plasma behaves as iron isotopes.
Yeah, that explains stuff.
Pardon?
That explains a lot because I couldn't explain it logically how it's happening.
Now you understand.
Yeah, because logically when we look in things, we used to see that from the higher element you can have all elements down, but how can you go to element up? And now it's a little bit more clear.
In a way, you go back into nuclear, atomic, and what you call chemistry, and what you call double bond and single bond and isotopes. All these are created conditions according to the conversion of the proton or energy of release by neutron, which is consumed or used within the structure of the nucleus. the world of nuclear and atomic and chemistry have not understood this. If you understood what I explained just now, then if you are a chemist, it should become very clear why you have a single and double bond electrons in your chemical reactions, or why sometimes you share. If the energy released by neutron in a nucleus, you create a condition that it can be used or be conserved in the nucleus itself without radiating out, can use that energy to change the bonding from a single to a double bond or a single, and change behavior of chemical interactions. And you can do it if you understood whatever to putting the plate with the resistance and going to no resistance, that we explained the conversion of the fields to go inwards. If you can manage to convert this plasmatic magnetic field inwards in towards a nucleus to conserve it, then you get a different behavior from the electrons and protons, because now the plasma of the nucleus has a different strength, and this dictates the position of the electrons.
I wonder if that would explain when we have the plates, say, halfway out of the liquid.
Hello, we lost you.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. We said plates and it went.
Oh. Okay, let me try again. When the plates are like halfway out of the fluid, say a nano-coated copper plate, then it'll, out of a saltwater fluid, it'll look much different. The plate above the salt water will look much different than what's underneath. What's underneath will be fairly homogeneous and consistent, but what's above will have a number of layers of, or what would you call it? A gradient is a good word. A gradient of colors from the surface of the water, and I'm wondering if that ties in somehow there.
I think partially it's true to refraction of the light of the water, what you see, and partially you could be correct. Because then it's, you still have a flow from the bottom side to the top side, which is the resistance. You're half man, half beast, as I call it.
Yes, right. Well, there must be quite a gradient at the water levels, I'm thinking, between the no resistance to resistance, pretty much zero resistance to full resistance, you might say. And that's quite a gradient, so therefore there must be some sort of voltage or amperage difference there right at the water line, enough to create a difference in the colors of the materials. Because even when if you were to take the plate out and dry the whole plate, you would see that maybe an inch or so of multiple colors or layers above the water line before it evens out a bit. Does that make sense?
Yeah, because you look again at physicality, where in fact even the surface of the water has a curvature of fields from its surface, because it still is matter magnetic gravitational fields. So you have a curvature of fields in the strength a few microns away from the surface, so you get that change. There are a lot of things which you have to go back and understand, that there is no straight line cutting. There's the curvature of the fields. And this goes back exactly what our Chinese friend showed in the picture, 2 rings and a single ring. And then 30 milliamps and 50 milliamps. point is the reason you don't feel the pain and it reduces can create a false point. If once the pain is finished, you do not use the system anymore. The minute you felt that the pain is over, you remove it. Because in the plasmatic condition, you create a connection in the carbon state nanolink of the GANs of the amino acid and the what they call acidity between the muscle tissues. And if you carry on using it after your pain is gone, it comes to a point that the body will misinform the brain about any other further incoming pain, which means you will not feel it. And then you can stretch the muscle beyond the stretch and damage it. We have a very good detailed experience with the sports people. This is part of the secure technology development which we've done over years. We collaborate with the doctors in the sports section. We've done for years now, and we see we don't look for a change of performance of the sports people at the highest level. We look for recovery time and immediate stop after recovery. We understand this process very well. It's been going on for nearly since 2007, 2008. The sports injuries, recovery, but you have to stop using the system the minute the pain is gone, and you don't try again and see if the pain comes back. There is a principle in the development, and that is the process of the working. This works exactly in the line of the plasmatic magnetic field of the body of the man. And once the pain is gone, you have to stop. You have to stop. It's not that you go and do again and see, okay, my pain goes, I can extend the use. It's in some people has effect, in some people doesn't have effect. This is not a side effect. It's just that you get to the point that the body automatically releases the links of the pain, and you don't feel the pain. It's very good for sports people who are trained to use these things, because it brings a time of recovery from weeks and weeks to a matter of a couple of days. High intense sports people, we have tested this on. Some of the world champions or national champions have been using the system with the foundation, not for what do you call it, doping, but for the recovery from local pain. And because it's not like an ice pack you put or you spray, it processes the whole structure. We have some champions using this technology, and it's well documented. We work with the sports doctors in that level. You cannot push the limit. It is not a shot of painkiller. It is processing what causes the pain. It's not a drug, it's not a... I know some people use it. For example, I was told by Sohail, I think in Malta or somewhere, that they had a pain in the neck and it did not help with the pain in the neck. If you have a disc, it will not help with the pain in the neck, because that's a disc, that's a defect. It has to be sorted. The pain comes from the movements and the position of C1, C2, and the pressure on the pads, on the discs, sorry. These pressure pads are in a way a form of part of the structure of the body of the man, because in their structure carry part of the elements of the physicality of the line of communication, an information carrier. They are They look very simple, but I studied very carefully before we even use it. You cannot keep on extending to see how much better you do. Let me explain this very clearly. Um, when I came back from Iran, due to the suspect cancer in pancreas and liver, and in developing systems to overcome the condition of the pancreas cancer, I developed technologies for myself and systems to overcome, which has been successful. But years later, 3-4 years later, I fell off a horse, in a horse riding with the family, that I broke all my bones, all 8 ribs were broken, and 2 broken in 2 places, so I had 10 broken ribs. And I had no pain. It's amazing. There were no pains, and then when we used the system, there were no pains at all. While breaking the bones, I did not feel any pain. And this was very strange, even though the broken ribs penetrated the lung, the kidney, and the liver. Then later on, years later, in analyzing why I did not feel the pain, one of my conclusions in respect to my own structure was the possible use of the systems, materials which I made for myself. I have short-circuited my neurosystem for a time being, or for a short time. And um, this was dangerous for me in a way, because if I would have felt the pain in the mountains where I fell, I wouldn't have got up. I would have stayed grounded. Or when they moved me, I wouldn't feel the pain. And then they wouldn't move me the way they did. This is one of the things, when you use a system, you have to let go when the effect of pain is finished. And if it persists, you have to ask, you have to look for a solution with the medical people. This is a pain aid pad. It's not that it cures all your pain. You have to understand what's the source of the pain. And don't extend the use. The problem is these are plasmas. So they, as much as they give, they take too. So it's very much like olden days. I always compare this system, an acupuncture and a leech. It's a magnetic leech. You know, in olden days they used to put a leech on your body to suck blood out, to take the poison out, they call it. Because these are plasmatic, they have both gravitational and magnetical. So in a way, because this specific pad creates the property in the way it does, it extracts fields from the environment of the body too. So it's anti-inflammatory, behaves as anti-inflammatory, because when it takes the field away, the inflammation goes down with it, because the field is not there. It's exactly like chemotherapy. When you have a chemotherapy, the energy of the chemo expands the cell, and the cell cannot go through the bone, and then you lose your immune system. But this is the reverse. These systems are plasmatic, gravitational, to be like a acupuncture, to go in and to concentrate the fields, or just, and gravitational, which means they extract, so they behave like anti-inflammatory too, because they take energy from the liquid or whatever is in the body, which is, you have to realize something very important, and the whole structure you have missed. How these systems work. And how you, doctors, I know a large number of doctors listen to all these programs. You have to understand the process of pain. What does it mean to be pain? Pain is an information electrical plasmatic condition which is higher than what the neural system can carry physically. So the excess energy shows itself as a current which needs to flow somewhere, and it creates a charge release, and you call it a pain. With this system, because it's plasmatic magnetic field, it links up with that extra charge to be taken out of the environment through the gravitational field of the plasma within the matter. So you don't have the charges there to create pain. It's a phantom pain. Phantom pain is when the information through the neural system comes to go and, for example, to replace a cell in the tip of the finger. When you had the arm cut, so that finger is not there, the information goes nowhere. So, but the information has been released by the brain through the neural system. So it's a charge. When it gets, it's got nowhere to go. It discharges in the environment, and in that discharge, the other nerves in the environment pick up this extra discharge, and they call it a pain, and we call it a phantom pain. So with these pads, scientifically, we understand what they do. So what happens? The gravitational field of the plasma, which is dispatched by the pad, links up to the nano plasmatic current, because it's a plasmatic, and the current which comes from the nerve is in plasmatic. They link up very easily. So it's taken away. So that creation of additional energy in a pain condition creates inflammation, or environment of the heat, that they call it inflammation. So when it links up, it takes it away, and then the line of communication becomes normal, and then you have no pain. There is no leakages of current flow of the plasmatic from the nerve into the environment. You have to understand the whole process. So in a way, you have an acupuncture and a leech system together on these pads. And you cannot use it, because if you use it, for example, when you have a pain somewhere in your body, and then you use it to get rid of pain, and that part has a cancer, you defeat the object. You just allow the cancer to grow uncontrolled. So understand what it is. That's why we recommend most of these just for arm and leg, because we don't see that much cancer in the arms and legs. If you use these for any other part, like your hip pain or whatever, understand what you're doing and the way it's done. Now we have a case that a very well-known sport person was recommended, and even past 5 years, for the operation on his hip. And he asked me a few weeks ago, I need to, because he was more or less dragging and limping on his right leg. I said to him, you have to understand how you got to this point. Just because the doctors can't understand, they say, okay, we do a hip replacement. I sat him down and said, you explain to me, you're a judo instructor, you teach high-level sports people and police and the rest. You explain to me how you have come to become in this position, that they want to replace the hip and the top of the femur because of the cartilage getting destroyed. It took us a few conversations, but we went to the root. And then I explained to him where and how he has come to damage his cartilage in his hip and in the top end of his femur. And in less than 4 weeks, he's walking more or less normal. We use the pad for anti-inflammatory condition, where it is, but we put the cause, the reason for the movement of the femur, to put pressure on the hip that it destroys the cartilage, right. And now he still start teaching again or practicing judo when I was speaking to him. And I said, you can't do that. You have to allow for the cartilage to be developed. We removed the inflammation caused and the pain caused, but go to the source of what it was. What happens? You're all ladies. A lot of you ladies are coming into the northern summer hemisphere. You love to wear these fancy slippers. I've talked about this before, maybe now we can add to it. All these fancy shoes you wear, even men, sometimes when you walk around the furniture, you get your small toe on your foot clipped on the door. You feel the pain, maybe inflammation for a few days, and then it's gone, it's finished. But in fact, that inflammation, that clip of the little toe, is beginning of the disc replacement between 5 to 10 years down the line. Understand the reason why. The body of a man has two balancing systems. One is a nerve which goes right across the flat of your foot, which controls the physical balance. And one is your in middle ear that it controls the balance for your emotional, the brain side. Because they have nothing to do with each other, they're just stuck on a pin together. When you clip your toe and it moves, it's a micro nano movement. What this does, this disbalances this central nerve system. So the central nerve line in your foot has to adjust itself to accommodate this movement of the small movement of the toe. So now, because it has to adjust itself, it has to adjust the position of other toes. It has to adjust the position of your ankle. Because if you had a clip on your toe, you'll find out later on, few weeks, few months later, you start twisting your ankle. You walk into your ankle and you see it swollen and you get inflammation of it. And you say, I've got a pain in my ankle, because the pain comes from the damage to the toe months ago. And in the central nerve line of the foot, trying to adjust for that little damage. So everything has to be restructured. Now you become the Tower of Pizza. How much you can bend to accommodate this. Now the ankle goes. Months later, the muscles are still correcting that little toe. Now the knee has to move to adjust for the change in ankle. Then your hip has to move to adjust for the knee movement. Then what happens, the whole vertebra has to adjust. Now you become a real power, what do you call it, Tower of Pizza. So the disc tends and your disc squeezes out and you get the back pain, and then you get sciatic nerves, pain, and the rest of it. None of, yes, none of the osteopaths and chiropractors will ever put you right, because if they put you right the first time, that's it. You are not going for a visit and there is no job. I teach this to osteopaths. I've shown this to Dr. Elia. I teach this to the sports, what do you call it, doctors. I teach this thoroughly with the chiropractors. So what happened? Now in this case, the knee has moved, the femur has moved in wrong position. So now the top of femur sits in the casket of the hip, so it's rubbing and it's destroying the cartilage. Now they want to change the femur, but they change the top end of femur, but they don't solve the problem of the misalignment. What you have to do is very simple. You find a very nice guy or a nice woman, being husband or wife or boyfriend or whatever, somebody off the street. You lie down flat. We'll make a video of this and we'll let you use it, because this stops a lot of disc operations. Every few weeks, it has to be done as a normal process of life, especially in summertime, which clip off your fingers or your toes. So what you do, you lie flat on the bed. You ask your what I call gymnast or your chiropractor to hold your small toe in a way of pulling it. You know the way you pull your fingers and you hear clicks? You start from the small toe and you go one by one, pulling the toe in a straight line direction upwards, that all the toes come in line. In this process, you bring that nerve system back to its position, and you repeat this the first 2 weeks, 3 times a week, and after that once a week, once, twice a week, till you get rid of the pain. Then your ankle moves in its position. You'll have some pain in your ankle for a few days because now it has to go back to where it came. You get some pain in your knees, which has go to pain, and then you get your femur to be adjusted, moves just a micron upwards, and it doesn't destroy the cartilage. There it goes, a hip operation. You don't need to spend years in hospitals and operations. Then all the disc situation goes the same. So majority of these kind of processes, but there is one thing you have to remember. You did the left toe, which was they did the left foot. You have to do the right foot the same at the same time. Because the side has adjusted to the movement of the left side. The right side has to be adjusted. But when you did the toes, now you have corrected only the nerve foot. You haven't corrected the rest. What you do, the next is you put a hand on the palm, the fat end of the foot, which is just below the toes, and you put a hand under the ankle, holding the ankle firmly, and you just pull the back of the foot towards you in one jerk. That it allows all the muscles, nervous system in the legs and sciatic nerve to adjust themselves. There it goes. All the operations, and there is no less job for the doctors to do. And the process from the time you click your finger or your toe till the time when you have a disc operation is 10 to 15 years. You totally forget about that little clip of toe on the door or a furniture or whatever. You do this with your children in the growth time on a regular basis, once every 2-3 months, because children are active, they run around, they do things, and then you find them, they walk straight, and it's because there is no pain, they become peaceful children. These are little things you do to help yourself, but then when we get to the hip, which is moved, a fraction of micron, is not putting pressure on the cartilage to destroy it, you use the pain pads to allow, as I said, the gravitational magnetic field, the inflammation in the point of interaction. And then you find a man living a normal life where he was in misery for years. Understand the process and understand how you do it. Understand the totality. You cannot stop the degeneration of the disc if you do not get the pressure off it. You release the pain, but you have to move the pressure away that the cartilage can develop. This gentleman was with me yesterday, and he walks as normal. I asked him to run with Marco a few weeks ago when we were here, and he can run for the first time in 5 years. We do not report everything we do, but we develop the total technology that when the knowledge seekers are here, can follow, can do. You have to go in the source of a problem, not trying to sort out the side effect. The present medicine only deals with the side effect because it generates a lot of money. If they sort the problem from the source, there is no need for it. But as I always tell them, there's 7 billion of us and we keep on damaging ourselves. So you have a business for future. You don't need to what they call eliminate the scientists who come up with solutions. These pain pads have very much plasmatic gravitational magnetic field environment. Because of that, they want the field which exert as a magnetical behaves like a acupuncture pin. It concentrates the energy to one point, and the gravitational magnetic field extracted from the point, which disperses through the body and even to the skin and even to the matter you carry as a cover. So understand what you're doing and the way you're doing it.
Mr. Keshe, there was a question. Can the pain pad be cut into pieces and each piece used?
Don't do that. Don't
Okay.
do that. That's not recommended. You can do all sorts of things with it. They used to fracture. When used too much of them, they crack. I asked Sohail to see into it. That it doesn't happen. The effect is from 1 centimeter to 10 centimeter or 1 meter is the same. But when you use it low as a patch, a small piece, does not create the condition of the plasmatic. It becomes more layering. When you have it as a bandage around you, your body section becomes part of inside the core of the plasma. And it behaves that way because I was going to ask Dr. Elia to do the next health section on the skin of the man as the biggest organ, because we have to understand the operation of the skin of the man. The skin of the man is one of the best coated reactors God has ever created in a matter state. Then you understand, when you put these pads on, your body, the nano layers of your skin reflects part of the energy back into the plasma, and it's in tune with your body, it's in tune with the plasma of your body. So if Dr. Elia does the next Tuesday teaching on the biggest organ of the man, which is the skin of the man, then you understand most probably why and how these mats work so effectively. Even in a pain condition, in a burn condition, they have some good results. Even in physical injuries, they have some good results. We've been testing this for 10, 15 years. I know more or less everything, the way they can work and they can operate. I will not use it for a disc damage, because this damage it will not solve the problem. What has happened, the disc is damaged, is crushed, so it's disbalanced. You have to grow the disc enough that it takes the pressure off the nerve, then you don't have a pain. And we have developed this technology fully. There are a number of cases we've developed. If you have a spinal, what you call a disc damage, even if you are twisted, as long as the disc is not removed and vertebra is not fused together, you can go back to normality between 3 to 6 months. And this is one of the things that the Keshe Foundation Health will develop in the coming weeks and months. That if you suffer from any pain damage in the vertebra as a disc damage, it can be eradicated in a very short time. Dr. Ivan Mitchell can tell you, we run a number of cases in Belgium. He's been operated, what you call it, witness to 1 or 2 cases. The process is to understand the reason, and then you can solve the problem. Not just try to.
From the other end of the universe can travel through that network, and in fact, maybe even instantly, because it's not relying on compression so much as a plasmatic response from the, so it would be more instantaneous. And I've heard that saying before, that sounds can actually travel through the universe virtually instantly. So it's kind of a funny idea. I don't know if Mr. Keshe, if you run across that, and also we have the ancient idea of the sound of God, or the sound and light, or what creates the universe. So sound actually came first, I believe. That's the vibration, and then the light would be the interface of vibrations that would cause the friction that caused the light.
You have to understand a simple principle. We have spoken about this before. And as I say in the book number 4, when it's going to get published, we have explained in a simple way how the light is created on the surface of the stars. So what it is, like Earth, the Earth internally creates its own gravitational magnetic field. So does a star. And then in a condition at a point of the material interaction and plasma interaction, which is on the surface, which are, they are made of the plasma, especially in the case of the stars, two magnetic fields of the plasma on the surface and the gravitational magnetic field which is created in the center of the star hit each other, leads to the creation of the light on that star. That's how light is created on the stars. By friction of the plasmas against each other, which are on the surface, their gravitational magnetic field, and majority of it, some 90-95% of the light is created due to interaction of the gravitational magnetic field which comes from the center in interaction with the plasma on the surface. This is the exact system as in a further distance you have, for example, on the daylight with the Earth. Gravitational magnetic field of the Earth in touch, in interaction and friction with the gravitational magnetic field of the Sun creates the daylight, the friction of it. Whatever creates as a residual, which can be pulled to by the gravitational field forces of the Earth, inwardly becomes what we call light. We see it as a daylight. So the same process starts and is done on the surface of the planet. The interaction of the gravitational magnetic field from the center with the gravitational magnetism of the plasma of the GANs of materials on the surface of the star creates light. And part of that process of friction is noise. So stars do make noise. It's part of the process. We only looked at the light, we never considered the sound. But if you go further, you can see more beyond sound and light. So when they say they discovered they have a noise, now that we understand the technology from its essence, so it's natural. When you rub two hands, you get the heat and the noise. So even the planets make the same noise. The gravitational magnetic field of the Earth at the point of interaction with the oceans, fluid dynamic oceans, which are again a plasma in a different strength, creates a noise. It's inevitable. The friction and the noise on the upper atmosphere is different than inside at the surface, because there is a more plasmatic condition, and that's why you produce scans of the matters at the outer layers. This can clearly be seen on the hexagonal formation, as I explained this before, of like Saturn. And the North Pole, we see hexagonal formation of the clouds, because it's nano layers in a gas state, at least 3 layers of different strength. In rotating, they create the hexagonal condition. And that creates its own noise. So, one noise in respect to gravitational field interaction with the Saturn internally itself, and one which is from the interaction of the fields of the Sun in interaction with the gravitational magnetic field of the planet itself. Noise is part of the structure, so they haven't discovered, they have discovered, but they can't explain it. Now scientifically you understand how it's made, and you can write to them and say, now we can explain to you how you make the noise. Every entity which is plasmatic in interaction with another entity which is plasmatic creates friction and has a residual sound, light, even the other dimensions that in the future we'll explain. I could publish the book number 4 if I had time. A lot of these things we have answered into that.
Rick, did you show the other pictures?
Yep, I've shown all the pictures several times there now, Ralph. So I think we've pretty much penetrated that.
Yeah. The attempt that I made there to build one, that was before.
Or fields. Then you have B1, from what our colleague has shown us with his drawing. At the point of the 3 minus 3 plus 2 plus 2 minus at the circle of the 4, you find a point of common position. So, in a way, for the first time, the essence of the creation become tangible and visible because the field forces of the 3, 1 and 2 have given dimension to 4. Because before this, 4 was open, it could go any size. Now its own creation has given its limitation. And in a physical term, if you go to A to B, at the point of the total circle of the interaction of the fields, you find the essence of detection and manifestation. Because being different to the others, at the point of, let's say, interaction of -2 and -1 on the circle of the 4, you find the point of existence in conformation of visibility, tangibility. When you go to B, not B plus or B1, but to B, now you have the both mirror. So every structure has a mirror because of the plus and minus, or what he calls it 3 plus 3 minus. But at the point of each circle to go from B to C, you get another line of the strength of manifestation, or visibility, or detection, or materialistic. So anyone which is on the field, the total ring of B1, does not matter where in the universe you are, because of that level of strength, you are visible to each other. Then when you go to C, anyone on the ring of the interaction of the outer boundary of the C are visible to each other, but they don't see B1. As B1 does not see the A, because it's radiated out towards its own creation. That's how the levels of the creation is, and we don't see the others who are in their own circle, visible to each other, but not to the others. But they still have existence. If you go into the 24 circles, then you see the point of tangibility on every cross point. But anyone within the first circle is visible to them because it's have the same strength. In the 24, the total outside, if you look, does not matter where you are, because you're at the same strength within the same environment, you are visible and tangible to each other. And if you go back to A is the creator. So he sees the totality because it's still feeding D, even though it sits and it fits B1, A, C, and D. And that's why in the structure of the universe, we say the God exists and lives amongst us, because you still receive the fields of his essence of his creation. From A, even you're at the D position and thereon. This simple drawing has completed the cycle of the creation in a very simple way. Then you understand in which points you will be able to see other entities in the universe, which is visible and tangible to you. And you're not aware of B and C because they're of different strength and they made you, or in time you lead your energy to creation of the others further down, E, F and G and the rest. So as our friend was explaining to us, the point of tangibility is where you are in that circle and in what strength you are. Then that point you become materialized to the ones who are of the same strength. But to the others you are not visible. And this is how the division in the universe comes. Carry on. Go back to what you were teaching, because if you can now explain from what your point of view the division of the understanding which should be added to the knowledge. In a coming time, you will learn how to create segments with different pressure within the same plasma. If you want to understand how to do it, look at the total structure, why we get huge plasmatic magnetic field rotation and flows, which we can detect it externally as a gravitational field of the planet. Something which a lot of people will come to understand when we go in deep space. We see solar flares coming from the surface of the sun. We have the same earth flares which leaves the earth due to interaction of the surface pressures, like the liquid water and internal pressures within the structure of the gravitational field forces of the different, what you call, magnetical gravitational field pressures inside the core of the Earth. Half of the tectonic movement, the plate movement on Earth, is due to this effect, creating plasmatic pressure through the plasma itself. If you understood how 2 was changed to 3, it should be very easy to create these walls or condition of plasmatic pressure in different walls. All you need to do, don't go for coating. Create, as I explained, and I tried Dr. Elliot to explain it, but somehow she could not go to it, was you create a different gravitational magnetic cavities behind the wall according to the pressure you want. You don't touch the wall. So what you do, you drill a hole where you create a vacuum condition in the back of the wall which absorbs. You fill one with CO2 and you fill one with gas of copper oxide. That's how you create your different pressure walls.
Okay.
You understand?
Yes.
Can you explain that again, Mr. Keshe, please? Drilling a hole, sorry.
You can create cavities. That's why I asked Dr. Elliot to come in, but she could not understand what I was asking for. That's why I explained in different layers of the skin, you have different cores that dictates the field strength according to lower and higher. Especially if you use three-dimensional printers, you can allow for these cavities to be created on the outer wall of the thing, of the wall of your core, and then you fill it up with the gas of the material you want. So you decide one pressure on one wall is gas, CO2 pressure, one is the copper oxide, one is CH3, and you create the rotational flow of the plasma without using any rotation of the motors. This is how you do. This is how you have to perfect the technique. Then at the same time, when you do in the northern hemisphere of your reactor than the southern hemisphere, you have to decide the amount of the gas in each one, that you create a flow according to the motion up or down or north to south or south to north, where you can inject one to another or increase or decrease. These are the things we'll come to. This is how you create plasmatic magnetic field pressure rotation without any motors. Nicholas, you're on a very fine track. You have understood, but as an engineer, as a whatever, because you don't need a degree to be an engineer. You understand the translation. And if you take the dimension of the pressure in the right way, and if you use like a three-dimensional, what do you call it, 3D printers, then in a way to interact or interconnect in your design between different fields, then you can create a plasmatic rotation without any motors. This is how it's done in the universe.
Okay.
It's the first time I explained this, so it's important to understand. You dictate if you want a positron or you want an electron rotation. If you want a north to south, you want south to north. I do this very frequently in medical systems. When I use certain plasmas, in containing the plasmas with magnets, I dictate the direction of the flow. So I give from emotional part to the physical part the amount I need, and vice versa. So what you're looking for as a plasmatic pressure, that's why I brought Armon in, because you are still working in the matter state, you are in still a schizophrenic condition. You can do it very easily with the plasma, and the plasma, as you have the knowledge and you have now a cocktail of different plasmas, you create pressure wall not by nano coating you internally, you create the pressure externally, so it's rapidly done. You can go
Okay.
create a wall pressure as a copper oxide pressure and then change it automatically with different feed to a CO2 or CH3. And you dictate the speed of the rotation of your plasma and then the speed of the change of your free plasma and the position in respect to the planet. You can't go in the reactor and change nano coating or fix it. If you make a fixed wall, you have no control anymore. That's it. You become what we call levitation position. But if you understand how you create rotation, you don't necessarily need blade, but you can create within the outer boundary structure of your plasma different pressures. Now that you have taken our knowledge a step further, then you can see how you create rotation. This is how rotation is created in most of plasmatic structures like the sun, the earth, and everything else. And that's why I went back into originally with the 12 points. One has to always be out of balance. That's why you have a woman in the 12 disciples. You understand? Because one is equal to the other 11, which creates a disbalance in them in trying to achieve attraction. That's why in the core we introduce, you will see the only female. So you understand the position. It's the same structure in the universe. You do not go and physically change your panel. Now I have to go right and change the current, because once you create a nanomaterial structure with certain current, you're stuck with it. But when you create the external pressure behind, you can change the material, your pressure changes as you need, and you can change the direction of flow. You can do it internally in the wall, or you can use your external reactors to create that pressure at a given point in your internal reactor.
Okay. And if you create a cavity within the wall, that means these cavities now will not have direct connection with the central core itself.
It becomes
So,
like an electron, but you have to understand the behavior of it.
okay.
It's very simple. You're still looking for that schizophrenic condition, and I try to change you into a straightforward thinking man with plasma.
Okay.
Yeah. So you look for solution in plasma, not in matter state plasma, and you have learned how to create plasma. Pardon?
Then you can introduce, let's say, different core to this star formation.
Good morning, Arman. You've been
Filled up
So
enlightened.
that's
with
how you make the
silicon.
pressure walls.
Yes.
Yeah. This is how you make.
Good morning.
Good
Okay.
morning.
Don't rush to the lab, because it's that basement of the shower becomes the boundary of the plasma of the solar system, let's call it. Now you put your head in. Now you introduce a new plasma in. What happens? The fields from the shower head hits your head and it splashes out. And then you start seeing little water pools around the shower. Some bigger splashes, some smaller splashes. Or when the water hits the basement, it splits into different pools, because now it gathers together again in a different condition in the basement. So now you enter the Earth into the solar system, and you still get the rays of the field of the sun. In conjunction in what is gathered around, and the field strength of the center, and the position of the Earth in respect to the sun, It dictates what size of splashes you see around you on the floor in the shower room. So the moons are dictated their creation by the position, the strength of the center, and the radiation and the size of the plasma of the solar system. When the scientists now are looking for systems with a moon or systems with planetary structure in them, that they find a habitation like Earth, that we can find another structure, they are looking in the matter level, at the level of the observation of the man, for the planetary system, where in the same structure of the plasma of the solar systems, where they don't see planetary system, there still exists planetary system which are not visible to man, because it's like a circle B and D, or A and C. So what we observe is the residual collection of the field of the same strength, which a stronger field dictates its position as central point. That's why we see larger number of moons on different structures further out in the outer boundaries sometimes. So it's no difference between when you introduce a obstruction or a new field, which is both gravitational magnetic field, for as much as the fields hit the Earth gravitational magnetic field and they spread to become light, part of the fields splash outwards and they become what we call solar dust. Most of the solar dust are created by gravitational magnetic field of the planetary system themselves, as they reduce the strength of the plasma of the sun as it radiates out. And if this position of the radiation is at the point of the weak, they gather together at the strength which is created plus the other dust, and they create the moons. The moon is not created by the planetary hitting the Earth and then part of it becoming the moon. No, it's all load of God knows. Light being the speed of ultimate speed. Earth gravitational magnetic, the same as what our friend has shown us, created a gravitational magnetic field point of balance, which is the moon, and collection of the dust. You see dust gathering on the surface of the moon is from the residual of the materials in hitting the atmosphere of the Earth, and others which has done the same, or the plasmas which have reduced in the strength at the field at the point of the moon, that they gather, its gravitational inertia pulls it in. So moons are created mainly by the field interaction of the planets themselves. But if it's strong enough and it's in multi-layers, when you have a huge multi-layers, you have more moons. Because each moon is created according to the strength of the layer. As the sun is in the center, and according to the strength, Earth is at this position, Venus is a different position, because of the distance from the center and the material it carries. The same thing applies to the stars, the planetary system and their moons. The same thing applies with the creation of atoms, atomic structure in respect to the electron and the protons. What field is radiated by neutron, additional neutron in the structure of the nucleus, which leads to the division or creation of the absorption of the fields to additional electron and conversion into what you call isotopes. The isotopes are created by the radiation field released by the additional neutron, or by the neutrons inside the nucleus, trying to reach a point of balance of continuity. So now you get one electron up or down, or you get one neutron, or you get one proton up and down. Or in conversion of the neutron to come balance, you create an additional proton but you lose an electron, or you absorb an electron, or you share an electron in the matter state. Where in a GANS state, you share balance fields in respect to connection. So what you have explained is exactly how the moons are created, and by nothing else. No meteorite has ever hit the earth that the moon was created out of its division. It's a load of nonsense. In coming time, you will see when you start producing matters, when your fields interact in your star formation, and you will see you start making gold in the fresh air atmosphere in the lab. Because at that point, you created a condition in respect to the center point reactor that allows the creation of an atom, a new structure, or what you call a moon. Carry on, sorry about that.
Thank you. So I think also the current picture on the live stream can add a little bit into that expansion and the division, because at least in this case we do not see the spheres
on the outside in being able to influence.
Something very interesting, maybe to look at a couple of points while we have this picture, is if you look into the yellow area in the center line between N and N, you see originally we started with the circular spheres in the original number 4 and the rest. And in the field plasmatic condition, if you look at this picture, we have managed to create straight line fields. These straight line fields are paramount in the work of the universe. In the atomic structure, when you get a specific plasmatic condition fields, we call it crystal lattice structure or diamond structure. And that's how, through fields, for the first time, you can see how lines are created. Very much the way I explained in the teaching of the health section about the skin of the man. When you put 3 and plus layers of the plasma of different strength superimposed on top of each other, you create straight line force of plasmatic magnetic gravitational fields. Even though they behave as a ray, which gives the boundary of the structure, they are still possessing both gravitational and magnetic field. This is why sometimes the light manifests itself as a ray to us. It looks as a ray, but it's still a plasma. And sometimes it manifests itself as a particle. And that has been the mystery for the world of physics. For the first time in this picture, you can see that the structure in a spherical condition, when you put a number of fields on top of each other, in a spherical shape, the total field from the overview from the top changes than on each layer. And that's what you get even as we see now the structure of the skin. Because the layer of the body of the man, the skin of the man, has 3 layers identified, but each layer carries different GANs of different matters. So each layer is 200-300 different plasmatic magnetic fields superimpose, creating a new layer condition in respect to the other, and then to the top layer what we see as the skin of the man will be absorbed as a physicality skin of the man. And in the solar system, the same division, what we see here in what Nicholas has shown us, gives the creation of different field forces that even each layer not necessarily works clockwise or anti-clockwise, and some spin in different axes, that they create the gravitational magnetic field of the solar system. So now with this picture, something which we've been explaining in how you get a straight plasmatic magnetic field, you see it. But you have to realize from this, you see this shape, which Nicholas has shown us with 250 plus possibilities. This is 250 plus possibilities on one strength source. Now you put another strength source behind it or in interaction with it. Now the combination goes into billions. And this is the essence of creation. This is why you get different materials in different part of universe and not in the others. This is why you can create uranium on this planet but not nowhere else till you find a parallel position. This picture, which is shown by Nicholas, it has a huge implication application. Being, for example, if you want to go from the position 12 to another position 12 on the other side, you do not need to go to the squares. You can use plasmatic magnetic field to go down a straight line from one point of the universe to the side without ever spending any energy, by tuning to the magnetic field from the 12 to 13 on the other side, and vice versa. This is what some people like to call the, what do you call it, the tunnels. But in fact, you tune to gravitational magnetic field on the boundary at the same strength.
You mean
So
wormholes? Is that what you're speaking of, Mr.
I don't
Kesh?
call them wormholes.
Right.
Wormholes don't exist. We are not worms, we are beings, so we find channels.
Channels? Is that, what is a good word for that?
It's a channel, it's a pathways. It's a
Right.
Even the teaching of God goes through the same pathway according to understanding. So when spoken in one word, is heard by the rest of the creation in the same word simultaneously. That's why they say the love of God touches every entity in the universe at the same time. This what you understand. So if you can understand how you can connect 12 to 13 and 12 to 12, you do not need to burn any fuel to go around the bend. You just go into the channels. These channels are understood by some physicists, but they do not understand how it works because they don't understand the work of the plasma. If you superimpose a number of these layers on top of each other, you create a different strength hardness in gravitational magnetic field. This is why I explained in the teachings of the past why we put sub-satellite systems on the boundary of the craft, the spacecraft. Because you create with them the same combination, multiple layering through this principle. And you dictate how hard that will be. Invisible or visible. Detectable, not detectable. You don't change the operation of your center core reactor, star formation. You change the strength of the boundary so you clear transparency or not. In the coming time, man will see that what you call UFOs are not what you see in the sky. They sit right on top of you if they wish and you never see them. Because they create that transparent vision to you is normal. I was explaining this to Marco and Armand some times ago. Stars, even though they show themselves as a star. These are station points that in time man will see when we say the whole sky will. The point of interaction is the point. So the way Nicholas is explaining this is the most beautiful. I don't think I could ever explain it so beautifully. We have to understand how these things interact and how now if you put another hexagon structure like this as we see it from the top under the other one, which level of the creation would you like to enter? What material would you like to create that has been invisible to you and exists across the universe? As Nicholas said, now you can dictate not only the position, but the matter production. And this is what I explained in our teachings. You use the boundary reactors to decide what material you want to create all the time in that section. Plasmatic magnetic gravitational field strength decides, has shown us, what material at what point you want to create, or where you want to be, or where you want to be visible. If you understand this structure, if you understand the teaching of the skin, which we talked with last Tuesday, and if you can create a field strength, which is very easy to do, you can make yourself visible and invisible any point in the universe or in front of the people. The real magic show starts. So, put it this way, it's the most beautiful way to do, because you do not know if talking about what is in front of you or not is listening or not, even though you can't see him. That corrects be a man, thou shall not do wrong.
Mr. Keshe?
So,
Mr. Keshe?
carry on. Yes?
Sorry, you're just
Can you
breaking
hear
up. Can you just find a different position for your internet connection? Just to see if it's that.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you. Sometimes it's just breaking out, so
Yeah.
just wanted to make sure that you're
Maybe
aware.
God, maybe gods don't want you to hear what I'm saying, because then you become too clever.
Oh, they always
No.
want us to hear. You know that.
Yeah, and God wants you to adjust your microphone a little bit too, just a bit
Thank
further
you,
away.
God.
It'd be great.
Yeah. So
Thank
you
you.
have
Continue.
to. Yeah. So you have to understand what you can create and what you can make visible. This is part of what you call teleport transportation. If you understand the structure, how you can make matters in one point visible, then create a condition for them to have a different environmental packaging and will not be affected by anything else in the time of the transition to another point, you can manifest yourself from 12 to 14 to 13 without losing any energy, and you'll be manifested in totality, not bits of your arm and legs missing. If you understand the
And of
picture,
course,
which
not down a Wi-Fi line.
the line will be very interesting very soon. We'll put them in museums. But at the moment, this is the level of our understanding. This is in the hand of people, which I see a lot of work to be done through Mr. Hoy, because he's on the path of different way than a lot of you, and he sees it in different way, in the Chinese way, in yin and yang, and he will open a lot of doors for us in the future. Because from the point of the understanding of the structure and the soul which he carries it. Carry on, Nicholas, sorry about that.
Thank you. So basically, I think this is the easy.
One thing which we have to understand about comets. They are not dirty snowballs. You got to go back into one thing. The people who say comets are from out of this, they enter this solar system. How come they come back on regular basis? And we know their path. So they are like stars which are in a different orbit speed. They are part of, the origin of them is this solar system. And especially where we are on Earth, if there were such a comets coming in our position in respect to the sun, we wouldn't see them going into the sun on regular basis. But the comets we see, they come back on regular basis within a given time, within a given orbit. So the comets are products of this planet, this solar system. And what happens is that as their orbit, they're like electrons, of loose electrons of this solar system. The orbit is so big that it goes to the boundary of the solar system where the energies are already converted into hydrogen and on the way to oxygen, or what you call frozen hydrogen gases. And as they come through and pass the heat of the sun, they evaporate, or they become changed, the gases into the liquid state. And as you are in that process, and our or what you call solar system is not all energy, but there are dust in it. In the process of their motion, the things they get embedded. It's like a snowball coming down. Stones, bricks, wood, everything gets into a snowball. It's exactly the same process. It's not dirt, it's part of the material they gathered in their movement. So this idea of, put it this way, as many cosmic stones or particles enter the solar system and come so close as you see entering in the Earth atmosphere. They all
I
burn
think
out.
it's about 100 of them a minute.
It's all burn out because we are very deep. We are very deep. So the comets are byproduct to the solar system itself. I've explained this in book number 4. They just have a loose orbit. They don't have a loose orbit. They have a free orbit which allows them, due to a small mass, to go to the outer boundaries of the solar system and gather, due to inertia, gather lighter gases, which on the way, because they solidify as the gases are huge, low temperatures, other things on the way they get embedded into it. And when they pass the sun, as they get very close, as the thing melts, opens up, the gases are opened up, then does the release of the stones in the snowball when it melts.
Data, and we need to think about 2 steps. The first step is acquiring data, which is the parameters and the values, and the second step is the processing of those data.
Yes, I think that sits together. I'm illiterate in this kind of electronic and electrons, and in a way, I think we even have to change the word of electrons to plasmatic systems. Because electron is too slow in this system, we have to create a plasmatic system.
Absolutely.
We walk away from this, what do you call it, electron movement.
Yes.
Electronics will take too long. The vibration is too slow.
Mm-hmm.